Let's rank all operators in the game. If you're interested to see all the comparisons data, and if you would like to see them, you can check all the links in the comments section. We won't talk about the pure numbers here, so don't worry, but here are the stats we have been using to make this list. More info of the minis can be found in the description. Without any further ado, let's start alphabetically. Zofia. Average loadout is a gadget that can be used on every single objective. The only tricky thing with Zofia is how to stop the bandit tricking, and that's it. She was always in the top 5 picks in the Pro League, but as well as she's very good in the solo queue, and pretty fun to play with. Zero, since he lost the frags, but he still has an average loadout with a gadget that is pretty easy to use, and can be extremely helpful for their team. Having flank closed or denying defender's utility is always needed. He couldn't be playing the Pro League, but he's also an excellent solo queue operator. Ying, and her primary is not as good, but Smokes makes up for it. Her gadget can be a bit of complex to use, especially how to bounce candelas on the walls to flash people. She has her times and situation and was barely picked in the Pro League. She's fun to play with, but not the greatest to solo queue. Warden has a very good loadout from the global shield all the way to 1.5 sight, and his gadget doesn't need a game knowledge, but the gadget itself doesn't bring that much to the team. Not a solo queue operator. Vamai has also an okay loadout and pretty easy gadget to use that helps a lot his team. His disc can be used on all objectives, and that's the main reason why he was picked religiously in the Pro League. Due to him losing shield, we might see the pick rate drop, but till then, he's still a great solo queue operator and can be fun to play with. Vigil has an excellent loadout, but a gadget that can be slightly bit more complex to use, especially in the scrims or tournaments when the points are off. His gadget is a selfish one but can be used on all maps. Sadly for him, we didn't see much of Vigil in the Pro League, but he's a great solo queue operator that is fun to play with. Valkyrie, P shooter with C4. I call it OK loadout. Her gadget is pretty straightforward. The only issue could be outside cameras. But whichever you can use and on whatever map you pick her, your team will find a great use on her. She was also nearly always picked in the Pro League, but as well as she might be one of the best LQ operators. Twitch, from an average loadout to a very easy gadget to use, just make sure to prioritize the gadgets. She's pretty relevant on the most maps and can bring some usage for her team. She wasn't picked in the Pro League and she's an okay for the solo queue. Thermite brings Ward an average loadout. He does have flashes to burn the 20 seconds meta. On the other hand, he has a pretty useful gadget that is very easy to use and relevant on the most maps. He was picked averagely in the Pro League, but I will not recommend him as a solo queue. Thatcher brings slightly bit better loadout with extremely useful gadget that is also easy to use. But you have to know how to deal with the Kai Tricker. Thatcher was picked a lot of time in the Pro League, but also can be used as a good solo queue operator. Tachanka still has a bad loadout and his gadget is not as easy to use. He can deny an area for 90 seconds and not just 50 seconds, as many people think. He couldn't be picked in the Pro League. However, since you can make holes yourself, he can be picked for the solo queue. Smoke's loadout is pretty fantastic, but lacks of long range gun. Has a pretty complex gadget, but very useful, and can be used anywhere. Smoke is one of the most picked operators in the Pro League, but also can be found in the solo queue. Sledge brings excellent loadout with an easy gadget to use that can be relevant and useful on most objectives, destroying floors, walls, and bulletproof stuff with frags. He's also one of the top pick operators in the Pro League and is deadly as a solo queue operator. Rook brings OK loadout and an easy gadget to use that isn't that useful unless if attackers are throwing a grenade onto you. He wasn't picked in the Pro League and there are better picks for the solo queue than him. Pulse brings possibly one of the worst loadouts in defense. C4 saves it. His gadget can be a bit complex due to map knowledge requirement, but when you understand it, he's extremely useful for his team. He wasn't picked in the Pro League and is an okay solo queue operator. Oryx also brings OK loadout with a gadget that can be a bit harder to use, the climbing hatch ability. And not all maps are Oryx friendly. He wasn't picked in the Pro League, and he's just okay for the solo queue. Nomad brings fine loadout and an easy gadget to use that is powerful, especially against the runouts. Runouts can happen anywhere, so she's pretty relevant. She was being picked a lot in the Pro League, and she's a great solo queue operator. Nog, with the help of Rex, can bring an okay loadout. She doesn't have a hard gadget to use, but neither it is a very useful one. Whenever defenders bring intel, Nog can be picked, but that didn't lead to any Pro League Nog clips. She's okay for solo queue. Mute has the same loadout as Smoke, but his gadget is easier to use, but it is also pretty useful to his team and can be picked on all maps. He was picked a lot in the Pro League and is a fine solo queue operator. Mozzie also brings a good loadout. Sadly, doesn't have a shotgun. Can we have a nav for the shotgun nerf? Aside from that, denying intel is very useful on all maps. He was also picked mediocre in the Pro League, but is an okay solo queue operator. Montaigne brings poor loadout and is hard to play with, but is very useful to his team. The thing is, he also has his time and a situation. He wasn't picked in a Pro League, nor I will recommend him to play as a solo queue. Mira brings a good loadout with a straightforward gadget to use that you generally should never pop out. The use of it is, it forces a different meta, and Mira was frequently picked or banned in the Pro League. She ain't a solo queue operator. Melusi has all that a roamer needs to have, a very powerful gadget that is needed in every objective. The only thing is, you need to know where the attackers are coming from for the Banshee placements. Maverick brings powerful loadout but probably the hardest gadget to use so far. However, since he has no counters, he's extremely useful. His peak rate in the Pro League shows a clear reason for that. Solo queuing as Maverick is a good idea if you lack of hard breachers. Maestro goes brrrr with a semi-complex gadget to use. Maestro is powerful to deny the drones, but his gadget is awesome. The main reason of him being brought in the Pro League is the gun and the gadget. He's an okay solo queue operator. Lion has worse than average loadout, but a very easy gadget to use that can be powerful for the whole team. He wasn't picked that much in the Pro League, but also, I wouldn't pick him in the solo queue. Legion has a powerful loadout and a powerful and easy gadget to use on most parts of the map. He wasn't picked that much in the Pro League, but this time I will go with Legion if solo queue. Capcan also brings a good loadout and a gadget that is pretty easy to use but slightly less powerful due to it being visible. He also has his maps where he shines, however we hadn't seen any Capcan pick in the Pro League. He's an okay solo queue operator. Kali is an operator that is usually picked if Thatcher is banned, but she brings okay loadout, mostly due to her secondary gun. She doesn't have that hard gadget to use, and the gadget is strong in the current meta. We haven't seen her being played in the Pro League that much. Not a solo queue operator. Kite also brings a fine loadout with an easy gadget to use. It is important to know how to Kai each rig. Kite can be hard to deal with, especially if Thatcher gets banned, and that is why we have seen Kite plays in the Pro League. He's not a solo queue operator. Jaeger brings a good loadout with an easy gadget to use, and pretty strong, and that is a big reason why he's one of the top Pro League operator picks. Luckily or not, he was reworked, therefore we might see a drop of his pick rate in there. He's an okay solo queue operator. Jackal has a strong loadout, all that a solo queue player needs. It's pretty straightforward to play with Jackal, and you can play with him on whatever map that has roamers. With that being said, he wasn't picked that much in the Pro League. AQ has a good loadout and somewhat hard gadget to use, due to you need to know what you can counter, as well as where they most likely will be. Her gadget is very useful and pretty relevant, but she was not picked in the Pro League that much. She's an alright solo queue operator. Yana also brings a good loadout and relatively easy gadget to use that is not as useful as other gadgets, but the gadget is not bad. However, you can use her on all maps. She was picked a bit of time in the Pro League, and she's fine in the solo queue. Hibana has a very good loadout, easy gadget to use. Hibana Kinning was confirmed glitching, so not counting that. And team needs to have a hard breacher. She was frequently picked in the Pro League. That speaks a story for itself, and she's a very good solo queue operator. Greylock, on the other hand, has an average loadout and easy gadget to use. You need to know where the flank spots are. She wasn't picked that much in the Pro League, but she's a good solo queue operator. Goyo has pretty good loadout but a relatively hard gadget to use, hence he's underrated in ranked. He's very helpful to his team and you can use him on all maps. For that reason, we could see him being played in the Pro League, but also he can be good as a solo queue operator. Glass has an alright loadout, mostly due to PMM and smokes. However, the gadget is pretty complex to use to the fullest, and a bigger issue is that he's very situational. That's probably the main reason of him being picked just a few times in the Pro League. He can work in the solo queue. Fuse, his comrade, has also a fine loadout, mostly to his AK-12, and his gadget is somewhat easy to use. Don't get C4'd or just don't put them on the barricades. But the use of his gadget is very minimum. He wasn't picked in the Pro League, nor I would suggest him in the solo queue. Frost has a good loadout due to pocket shotgun and a deployable shield. The gadget is pretty straightforward, but not as useful like Legions. She wasn't picked in the Pro League that much, but she can be a good solo queue operator. Finka is an operator with an okayish loadout and easy gadget to use that you can use on the most maps, but the thing is, it is not that useful. It's just for the rushes so you can deny barbed wires, banshees, or Arunis. She wasn't picked in the Pro League that much, and I wouldn't suggest her for the solo queue. As for Ella, she's another operator with extremely good loadout, shield, Scorpio, and free speed. All that your herd and team needs. She has a pretty easy gadget to use and it's pretty useful. She wasn't picked that much in the Pro League, but she's a great solo queue operator. Echo brings good loadout but a hard gadget to use. Being ice for the roamers, keeping your yokai safe for the execution is hard. As much as he's complex to play with, he's really useful and can be played on all maps. Sadly, he was default banned due to a bug, therefore we couldn't see him in the Pro League. Tokebi brings poor loadout at the cost of very powerful gadget that isn't easy to use. Understanding how sound works or doesn't work in Siege is crucial part of her tool. She wasn't picked that much in the Pro League, but she's a very good solo queue operator. Doc brings okay loadout and an easy gadget to use, but not that useful aside from certain situations, like against Capitao or Yellow Stairs on Consulate. He wasn't picked that much in the Pro League, nor I would suggest you to play him in the solo queue. Clash brings poor loadout as her main ability is to be on a shield, and that is pretty hard, but understanding her well will give you free wins in ranked. She was picked a few times in the Pro League. I wouldn't suggest her to play in the solo queue. Caveira has an okay loadout, impacts, and two deadly CQB guns. The issue is that it's very hard to interrogate. She wasn't picked in the Pro League. Caveira is okay for solo queue. Castle brings the worst loadout on defense aside from Clash, but he brings a very unique and useful gadget in a 5-stack teams that some strats simply cannot work without him. However, in the latest major, he wasn't picked that much. Castle shouldn't be picked in the solo queue. Capitao is well-rounded operator with an average loadout ability that is useful on the majority of the objectives. His gadget can be sometimes hard to use as you're exposing yourself. He was picked a bit in the Pro League, and he's okay for solo queue. For Buck, a lot of people love him mainly for C8, that is basically two guns. His gadget can be a bit harder to use, but is useful on the most maps. He was being played for a slight bit in the Pro League, and he's okay to solo queue. Blade is an operator with a poor loadout and pretty hard ability to play with. He can be nightmare to deal with, but only on certain situations. He wasn't played that much in the Pro League, and he's okay to solo queue with. Blackbeard also brings poor loadout as he brings shield onto his gun. Nothing much brainstorming you can do with his gadget. He wasn't picked in the Pro League, and I wouldn't recommend you to solo queue with him. Bandit brings a good loadout and an important and easy gadget to use, but you need to know how to bend the trick. You can use Bandit on a lot of objectives, but interestingly enough, he wasn't played that much in the major. Ash also brings a very good loadout with super easy but important gadget to use. She's one of the top 5 picks in the Pro League. She's fine in the solo queue as well. Aruni has a good loadout and pretty easy gadget to use which can help the 20 seconds meta as well as the anti-information meta. She couldn't be picked in the Pro League, but I would say that she's one of the better solo queue operators. Amaru also has a very good loadout but not useful gadget, which is at least easy to use. She wasn't picked in the Pro League that much, and she can be used for the solo queue, mainly due to her fragging abilities. Alip is a one-woman army with her loadout. Gadget is just alright, but straightforward. She was not picked that much in the Pro League, but she's a top tier solo queue operator. And finally, Ace. Ace has everything that a team needs: smokes, strong primary, and hard breaching gadget. The only thing that he lacks is a pocket shotgun, and then he will be able to do everything himself. For these reasons, he's in the top 5 picked operators in the Pro League, but also, I'm strongly recommending you to pick Ace in the solo queue. For my final thoughts, since this was an unbiased tier list, and probably the only one, because the only bias I could do here is the solo queue and the fun part, and that leaves only 4 out of 29 points. A few things that I found interesting is Smoke, even with being a complex operator, still managed to be in the second best tier. On the other hand, operators like Clash, Montaigne, and Castle, when taking competitive ice, should be definitely higher than currently. Sadly, the loadout as well as complexity did its job for them. Also, you have to remember that this tier list is not just competitive wise, this is also newbie friendly wise as well as the rank wise. So I'm taking everything into the consideration. And for the final note, I have taken a bit of comparison between the previous year's tier list and this one. I won't spoil it out, but make sure to check all the stuff in the spreadsheet. There are multiple pages. It is worth to see the graphs and all the comparisons. Thank you for watching this video and staying with me for this long, and thanks all the patrons and YouTube members for making this video available. If you want to learn all the basics and advanced things about the Siege, make sure to give me a like, subscribe and click notification bell to get all notifications from my channel. Make sure to give me feedback down in the comment section below.